Long after the waters of the Nile have flowed through countless centuries beyond the well-known Cleopatra who captivated the Roman world lies another far more shadowy figure of the same royal line, Cleopatra III. She stood as the very embodiment of ruthless royal power, yet also fell victim to the age-old cursed tradition of royal intermarriage within the dynasty. Tonight settle into slow quiet calm as we lift the veil of history to uncover a forgotten past woven with cold betrayal and unyielding cruelty. Listen closely to the hidden secrets of royal ambition, inherited genetic ruin, and the slow collapse of an ancient kingdom. Some tales are destined to carry a cold, somber chill, much like the tangled family legacy of Cleopatra III. This is far more than a simple struggle for royal political dominance. It is a cruel, unflinching experiment shaped by flawed bloodlines, fate, and inherited destiny. How did she survive relentless betrayal from her own kin and in turn plant the seeds of ruin that would destroy her own descendants? Close your eyes, settle into the gentle warmth of quiet firelight, and step into the shadow shrouded life of this little remembered queen mother whose days were wrapped in gloom, intrigue, and unrelenting power plays. The name Cleopatra III carries an unsettling, chilling authority etched deep into the annals of the Ptolemaic dynasty. Her lifetime stretched between overwhelming personal agony and icy calculated cruelty, turning the fight for royal supremacy into a merciless hunt played out entirely within the bounds of her own bloodline. Through the modern lens of biological archaeology, we uncover the hidden truth lurking behind the dynasty's twisted tradition of repeated intermarriage. Allow your mind and body to sink into complete relaxation and feel the unpredictable turns of fate unfold within this quiet, soothing narrative. Imagine the gilded, opulent halls of the Ptolemaic royal palace, where the deadliest enemies often sit directly across the dinner table, sharing the same wine and breaking bread as kin. Love and hatred were compressed tightly within the narrow boundaries of royal blood. Every grand royal wedding quietly foreshadowing another inevitable funeral. Cleopatra III is not the famous Cleopatra remembered across the globe. Her story is far more somber, oppressive, and haunting. She was both a relentless seeker of absolute power and one of the most striking victims and enforcers of her dynasty's cursed bloodline. Tonight, let the soft, steady glow of flickering firelight cradle your spirit and wander slowly into the untold truth of her life. We come to understand how this powerful queen mother navigated the tangled web of corrupted family bonds, only to lead her entire dynasty toward an irreversible downward spiral of collapse and ruin. Her life began not with the innocent bloom of youth but with a repulsive transaction rooted purely in ruthless political gain. Cleopatra III was born as the daughter of Cleopatra II, yet within the twisted customs of her time she quickly became her own mother's bitter rival. Her uncle, known to history as Ptolemy the physicist, first married her mother before forcing the young Cleopatra III into his union, as well actions that seem incomprehensible and morally abhorrent by modern standards were accepted as normal practice within the Ptolemy royal house, all done to preserve what they believed to be an untainted pure royal bloodline. One can only imagine the inner turmoil of this young girl, forced to watch her own mother exiled, cast aside, and powerless before being pushed herself into the bloody, treacherous embrace of her ruthless uncle. In that pivotal moment, a part of Cleopatra III's innocence, humanity, and softness died forever, replaced by an unhealthy, obsessive hunger for unshakable power. She learned the bitter lesson that within her cursed family blood ties offered no safe harbor, no shelter, no loyalty. They were merely the sharpest, unforgiving noose waiting to tighten around one's throat. She mastered patience, learned to weave subtle traps behind closed doors, and waited silently for her moment to strike back and claim what she believed she was owed. Following the death of Ptolemy the physicist, Cleopatra III finally stepped out from the shadows of seclusion to claim center stage, revealing a formidable, chilling matriarchal authority. According to the late rulers, she held the right to choose any of her sons to rule alongside her, yet in truth each son was nothing more than a disposable political pawn for her endless power games. She held deep dislike for her eldest son Ptolemy the ninth, deeming him too independent, stubborn, and unwilling to become the obedient puppet she desired to crush and undermine her own firstborn. She publicly crafted a despicable lie, claiming he had plotted to assassinate her. This open, cruel betrayal by a mother against her own son stripped away the last thin veil of royal dignity, igniting decades of bitter civil war across the realm. Seated firmly upon her golden throne, Cleopatra III watched coldly, detached, as her own sons turned against one another, locked in brutal conflict as if they were nothing more than disposable pieces on a game board. Her mind had grown deeply twisted, corrupted by years of humiliation, betrayal, and power struggles. She reveled in holding power over the very lives of her kin, as if this control alone could mend the deep wounds left by her own youthful humiliation. Under her iron rule, the Ptolemaic dynasty ceased to function as a united sovereign kingdom, transforming instead into a bloody family enterprise ruled entirely by a ruthless mother consumed by control and vengeance. When viewed through the modern perspective of biological archaeology, the life of Cleopatra III reveals a deeper hidden tragedy shaped by what can only be called a genetic curse obsessed with preserving the supreme nobility of their royal lineage. The Ptolemy family practiced relentless close-kin marriage for generations, including unions between full siblings and even father and daughter. Extreme overlapping inherited genes created striking physical traits across the dynasty, such as prominent curved noses and recurring obesity, while also planting deep seeds of mental instability, madness and psychological imbalance. Cleopatra III herself was a direct product of this long cycle of inbreeding, her family lineage stretching like a straight unbroken line with no outside blood to dilute its flaws. Biological research confirms such constrained genetic backgrounds greatly heighten the risk of severe psychological conditions, including extreme paranoia, obsessive fixation and a complete lack of empathy and compassion. This explains the icy, heartless cruelty she displayed toward her own children. Her capacity for maternal affection long erased and consumed by the chaos embedded deep within her inherited DNA. Her twisted hunger for dominance was shaped not only by harsh life circumstances but also by silent, flawed genetic coding running through her veins. Slowly, inevitably, the entire dynasty began to rot away, not just politically or morally but at the most fundamental, microscopic level of human inheritance. The pursuit of power always ends in desolation, and Cleopatra III's final fate echoed the very cycle of betrayal she had spent her entire life orchestrating. Her youngest favored son Ptolemy X, after enduring years of suffocating domination and forced shared rule, finally saw through his mother's relentless controlling grip. Once the obedient child she had favored, he yielded to the temptation of power and the raw instinct for survival, choosing the most final, irreversible act of defiance. In 101 before the Common Era, Ptolemy X ordered the secret execution of his own mother, accusing her of plotting to seize absolute authority. This queen mother, who had spent decades manipulating, betraying and sacrificing her own children for power, ultimately fell beneath the very blade she had raised and nurtured throughout her life. As Cleopatra III faced her assassins within her private palace chambers, one cannot help but wonder if her mind drifted back to the despair of her youth when her uncle first claimed her against her will, or to the cold satisfaction she felt casting her eldest son into ruin. In that final breath, every scheme, every betrayal, every calculated manipulation dissolved into empty nothingness. Her death brought no peace or healing to the crumbling dynasty, instead accelerating the collapse of an empire already worn thin by endless internal strife. The waters of the Nile continued their eternal flow, yet the last warmth of the Ptolemy royal blood faded away, spent entirely by generations of bitter self-destruction. Tonight this tale draws to a quiet close, much like a dying fire fading softly into calm stillness. Cleopatra III, a queen mother often overlooked and forgotten within standard history books, leaves behind a haunting shadow cast over the nature of unbridled ambition. She reveals the sober truth that when a person places power above all else, willing to trample familial love, loyalty and blood ties, the end result is almost always overwhelming loneliness, emptiness and total ruin. This cursed bloodline, after just a few more generations, vanished completely beneath the advancing footsteps of Roman conquerors. The flawed, unearthed skeletal remains, bearing clear signs of inherited genetic defects, still whisper silently of that chaotic, mad era. Life remains fragile, human desire unbearably heavy. When all worldly ambition fades away with the wind, nothing lingers but a quiet sigh carried down the endless river of history. Now, release every tension from your body, let your thoughts drift away. From the shadowy gilded palaces along the banks of the Nile, darkness carries a gentle quiet warmth, veiling all worldly power, struggle and intrigue, leaving only peaceful quiet companionship. Drift into rest, allow your dreams to be free of calculation, betrayal and cold scheming, filled only with pure unbroken tranquility. Good night.